So the text line is there for you, 866-979-3776, powered by Mac and Jack's Brewing Company. Dave and I are now accepting all apologies from those of you that took shots at us throughout the entire week when we kept talking about the motivation of the Lions and the fact that, I don't think you guys are reading this right. Everybody was upset that they were going to be a Sunday night game, and when the Seahawks beat the Rams, that the Lions were just going to go out there and just kind of go through the motions and lay down because there's nothing on the line. I think if you watch that game, it was very clear that game meant a ton to them, a ton. And you saw it throughout the day, Dave. You saw it throughout, looking at teams playing playoff teams, some of which had positioning on the line, some had draft pick status on the line, and they went out. The Texans go out there and beat the Colts. Texans obviously have nothing on the line other than to maintain that number one draft pick, and they lose it by going out and beating the Colts.
Right. Well, and nobody...
Nip and tuck battle, by the way.
Yeah, and nobody understands also, there's also the factor that Lovie Smith is probably 100% going to be gone.
Yeah.
So how about, he's got a little edge of, I'm going to win this game because I'm a good coach, and then, oh, by the way, it's going to screw you out of the first pick.
Yeah.
But who cares because you're going to fire me?
Well, yeah, but the motivation for players out there were teams that have nothing to play for. You saw it not just the Lions. You saw the Broncos. Broncos are a disaster this year. They went out there and put it on the Chargers in a big way, and the Chargers had their starters out there.
Well, and I always say this, too. Try asking a veteran to go out and tank a game and play crappy so they can get a high draft choice to come in and replace you.
Yeah.
Because you played terrible, because you threw the game. So, yeah, there's lots of things like that. I think it to me, that game last night, everything I watched played out exactly the way I didn't know that they were going to win, but as far as the motivation and what we heard from the Lions and all of that it played out like I thought it would.
Yeah, that team was fired up. They were absolutely fired up, and that was the concern, that they weren't going to have the fire. There's nothing on the line, so what do they care? They don't want to get hurt. We heard KJ. We love KJ. KJ is one of the great guys to ever wear a Seahawks uniform. He was wrong.
Yeah.
He was wrong. And there were a lot of people that are going, hey, you guys don't know what you're talking about. KJ is the one. I believe KJ. And there's just a lot of people texting and go, you guys don't know what you're talking about. This is terrible. The Lions aren't going to go out there and try. But I thought they were going to lose. But I didn't think they were going to lose because they weren't into it or they weren't motivated. They were beyond motivated. You saw it out there. I was worried about Dan Campbell's nose. I was certain that was going to fall off.
My wife was too. That and his ears. And then she was wondering, why didn't the other coach have red nose and ears? And I'm like, well, everybody's different,
Yeah, that's a fair question.
Yeah,
his was, boy.
You know what I think about KJ? I think he's a genius. I think he's a radio man through and through because he created controversy and everybody's talking about it. And, that was his take. And it wasn't good.
Yeah.
We're going to get to this Jamal cut. Is this a long one?
This is him after the game, just talking about the emotions. I think you hear it in his voice.
There's a lot of memories, a lot of emotion happening right now, but I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to be able to play this game for my great-grandfather, and I'm glad that he's looking down on me. I know I'm making him proud.
You said this ball's for him?
Yeah, this is for him. Another thing, stop playing us, man. We the Detroit Lions. We the Detroit Lions. Stop playing with us. I don't even watch TV, but I heard everybody already pick the Packers over us. Stop playing with us. That's all I got to say, man. Don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug.
Love that. Sounds like a guy who was a little bit fired up to play that game, along with every other player. You saw guys out there fist pumping and celebrating, and it was like that was their playoff game.
Well, and you heard every emotion there. I love that. I texted you guys. I sent that clip last night. I'm like, can we please get this guy in a Seahawks jersey? I don't care what. This guy he's amazing. We saw it was like that, during Hard Knocks. That's exactly who he was. By the way, I found out that my wife is not a good person to watch a football game like that with, because she was really fired up to watch it because you knew that, if the Lions win, we're rooting for the Lions. But it was like middle of the second quarter, like it's like 8 minutes left in the second quarter, and it's like a 2nd and 2, and they throw an incomplete pass, and she's like, oh, oh, geez. I'm like, just pace yourself. Hold on. There's still more to come. And then poor Hoover, our dog, he went over to the slider and hit the bell so he could go outside.
Because he was getting anxious.
The screaming and yelling. Yeah, he was just looking back and forth at me and chanting like, oh, my gosh.
He thought mom and dad are fighting.
Yeah, but I was like, let's just take it down a notch. So, that was but, man, that was so much fun to watch coming from the Seahawks game to go into that and watching that play out and kind of like we thought it would. And then also, it's always nice to be right.
Yeah,
because we were proven right. And I think, for me, it was more like, okay, that was a long time ago. So I would like to see some confirmation that it's like that and that the players are the same deep down inside. And that's exactly what that showed. So that was nice to see.
Well, and it was huge because obviously it helped the Seahawks get into the postseason, but
That too.
It wasn't just that game. That was the thing is you looked at teams that had 0 to play for, some with a lot to lose, like the Texans who still went out there and won, Commanders beating the daylights out of the Cowboys, Falcons beating the Bucks, Broncos beating the Chargers. These are all teams with nothing on the line. So it's just the idea that the guys are going to – I'm not saying it's – all 53. There might be a guy or two out there going, man, I'm not getting hurt. I'm not risking the big, the big bag I got coming to me next year. But I just think, I think you see it as a whole, especially when your coach is somebody like Dan Campbell. The idea of going out there and being sort of lazy or flat is not realistic.
Yeah, well, and the other thing too, really quick, this is really good for the NFL. This is really good for the NFL. And I think, that's probably going to be one of those games that's in the top 100 of most watched games, And here it is. Detroit knows at the time that there's nothing that can help them.
Yeah.
That even if they win the game, and they go out and win the game. So this is good for the NFL. It's good for the health of that because every game matters, and that's what they're trying to get.